Welcome to Excel magic trick number 1446. Hey, if you want to download this Excel file, either the finished file or start file so you can follow along, click on the link below the video. Hey, we've been doing a bunch of videos, 1444, 1444 part 2, and 1445. And now we're going to do 1446. Now, in the earlier videos, we used formulas. In this video, we're going to see how to use Power Query to count and extract customer names for 8 sales coupon groups. Now, here's the setup. We have a customer table, and every single customer has been sent coupons for these 3 stores. Here's the coupon redemption table. So every transaction here, we see the customer number and the name of the store. Our goal, as seen in a Venn diagram, we have 1, 2, 3 stores and coupons. For each one of these groups, we need to count and extract the customer name. So the inside group right here is the intersection of all 3. So these would have been customers that used coupons and went to all 3 stores. Right here, we need the count of how many customers and a list of all the customer names for customers that went to Wegmans and Publix. We need to do that for each group, including customers that went to no stores. Now, this amazing solution comes from Bill Szysz, a true Power Query master. And here is the end result that Power Query will deliver to the cells. We're going to list group at the top. Then we're going to have our combination of each coupon group. In fact, these will be all the combinations from our redemption table. Then it will list the count for each one of these groups. And below we'll list all of the customer names. If we look over here, we're going to have to import our transaction table, our customer table, do a left outer merge, then count and list all customers that use no coupons. And then we'll do our final report where we count and list, that should say list right there, customers in each coupon group. Now, this is the finished file. I'm going to close this. All right, this is our start file here. Here's our transaction table and our customer table. They're both already converted to Excel tables, and they both already have been named. I'm going to click into single cell and bring this into Power Query. Now I'm using Excel 2016 with the latest updates for 365. My Get and Transform group is over here on the left. Yours might be on the right. If you're in Excel 2010 or 13 and you've downloaded it, you'll have it as an extra tab. In whichever version, click in a single cell and click From Table. That brings the Excel table into Power Query. Now, the only columns we need are customer ID and store. So I click, hold Shift, click, Store, right-click, Remove Other Columns. That name is going to be good. Those are the steps. Now we can go up to Close and Load to. This is the Import text box. If you're in an earlier version, it will say Load to, but all the buttons are the same in whichever version. You want to click Only Create a Connection, click OK. There's our first import. Now I'm going to click in a single cell over here in the customer table, From Table. Those 2 columns are the columns we want. That's a fine name. Those steps are OK. Close and load to. Only create a connection, click OK. There's our 2 tables. Now, we need to merge these, and we're going to use a left outer join or merge. The reason why is not all customers show up in this table. And I need a table that lists all 1,000 customers, even if they went to no stores. So this will be the left table. And when we do a left outer merge, it will list all from the left and all the matching records from the right table. Now, I know these are not set up. This is on the right, this is on the left. But this will be the left in our left outer merge or join. We go up to Get and Transform, Get Data, down to Combine Queries, and we'll use Merge. The top table will be our left table. That's going to be customers. I click on Customer ID. That's going to be the column that links the 2 tables that allows us to join customers and the stores from our F transactions that we've imported. I select that. The resultant table will list all the customers and will repeat customers for all the transactions down here. Now notice left out or merged, that's what we want. This is the left table, 992. That means 992 customers showed up in the transaction table. Of the 1,000, that's the original 1,000 customers over here. Now I click OK. I'm immediately going to come over and name this something smart because we're actually going to have to reference this query quite a lot. Left out or merge, customer transactions, and enter. Now what we get is the two columns from the customer table. And since we merged them, when I click not on the table but off to the side, we can see the table object here. Those are all the store names. Now notice for Bernie Andrews, there are 3 stores. So when I use this expand button to only show the store column, Bernie Andrews will be listed 3 times, and all 3 stores will appear. I'm going to click the expand button, uncheck use original column, select all columns, and then check store. Click OK. And there are the repeats. Bernie's listed 3 times, and there are the 3 stores and coupons for Bernie. There's our name. There's our steps. Now we can close and load to. Only create a connection. Click OK. And there we go. Now our next query is going to use left, out, or merge customer transactions. And we're going to extract the count of customers that didn't go to any stores and list their names. Now I'm going to right-click and reference. Right off to the side here, you can see it already lists a new query. I'm immediately going to rename this. Count and list of customers use no coupons there. Source, we can see up in the formula bar, equals, and there's the previous query. Now, if we go to the store column and click the filter dropdown, like all filter dropdowns in all of Excel and Power BI desktops, they'll show you a unique list. If you don't see the complete list, we click Load More, and there it is. Uncheck Select All and select Null. Now we're going to filter to show only null. I click OK, and there we go. Now, because we have all of the nulls here, we can use the Group By feature. Group By will take all similar items, group them up, and then do some aggregate calculation on some other column or columns. Or Group By can simply gather up all the names into a little table. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 Group Bys. So Home Group By, Transform Group By, or right-click Group By. I'm going to click Advanced because we're going to have 2 Group By calculations. Group By Store, there's our nulls there, so there'll be just 1 row in our result. I'm very carefully going to name this new column Customer Count, because the result will be a column in this table, and we'll actually append that column to our final report. And the column names have to be the same. Count rows, that's fine. It's simply going to count. Since we have all nulls, it will just count the 8 customers. Add aggregation. I'm going to be sure and name this carefully also. Something like customer names, because we'll use this column and append it to the bottom of our final report. I'm going to click the drop down and say all rows, which means it will simply gather up all of the customer names into a resultant table. When I click OK, there it is. There's our count, and there's our table. Now, if I click off to the side and look down here, I really do not want customer ID and store. I just want customer. So I need to reference that column. Not only that, but this is a table. We could see up here type table, and we want type list. So actually, we'll just come up, and this is the line of code. We can click that drop down if it was longer. And Table.Group, it lists the previous step name, so it knows which step to work off of. Store is the column we're grouping by. a list within a list to list the different groupings. Customer count is the name. Each table.row count. Now that little underscore means get everything in the row. And that came out as type number, comma. And then the second grouping by in our curly brackets, customer name is the column each. And we don't want everything from the row. We want just the customer column after the underscore square bracket. And we list the name of the column we want. Close square bracket. I can see the type went down, so I'm going to click the expand button, double-click table, and call this list. So that will be the type. When I hit enter, there we go. If I click off to the side, there's our list of customer names. These will represent the customers who did not go to any stores. And there will be our count. Now I'm going to make a mistake here just to show you how awesome Power Query is. We're going to close and load this, but there's one last thing we didn't do, but we'll come back later and do it. I'm going to come up to Home, close and load to. Only create a connection, click OK. Now our final report, I'm going to reference this, so I'm going to right-click Reference. I'm immediately going to come and name this. There we go, count and list customers in each coupon group. And when I hit enter, and we can see our name over here. Now, the very first step is that we actually have to filter. Click the drop down, click Load More. We have different data types, null and text in the same column, and that will prevent some of the operations you can do in Power Query. Our pivot that we need to do won't work, so I'm going to uncheck. Now we only have text. We can pivot, and then we'll add the names associated with nulls later. So I click OK. Now I want to remove customer ID. Right-click Remove. Now we can see here we have duplicates. Bernie, Trader Joe's, Bernie, Trader Joe's. And we only need one of each. No problem. I'm going to click on Customer. Hold Shift. Click on Store. Remove rows. Remove duplicates, or right-click Remove Duplicates. Now, what I'd like to do is get a unique list from this column, which is 3 names, 1 in each column for 3 new columns. Then I'd like to have a unique list of customers, and then for each record, list the store names in each one of the columns for each customer. No problem. We can do that. Right-click Duplicate Column. Now that we have this duplicate, we can transform and pivot. Pivot will look through this list, a unique list. Each one is a new column. We'll tell pivot that this is the values column, and we will not aggregate. That will bring, for the 3 columns, for Bernie, it will bring Trader Joe's into the Trader Joe column, public into the public column. And since there's no Weigmans, Weigmans will get a null. Not only that, but this pivot will automatically give us a unique list on customer. Select the column, transform, pivot column. Now the values is going to be store, and we want to click Advanced. Aggregate, we don't want to aggregate. Don't aggregate. That's what will bring it out into different columns and give us a unique list of customers. Click OK. That is amazing. In fact, let's scroll down. There's our Bernie Andrews, and sure enough, Trader Joe's public and null. Now, the next thing we would like to do is get a unique list. I'm going to click on Trader Joe, hold Shift, click on Weigmans. I'd actually like to get a unique list of all the combinations from this column. And then I would like 2 extra columns. One to count how many customers are associated with each coupon group, and then a list of names. Now, we actually could do this manually, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We could count all the times we see Trader Joe's, Public, and Weigmans, right? And then we could take the names and list them. But no problem. The Group By feature will come to our rescue. When I highlight 3 columns and right-click Group By, it automatically creates a unique list from these and then does some calculations on the remaining columns. Now, we want to count, so we're going to be careful and type customer space count, and then we'll count the rows. Now I want to click Add Aggregation, and we're going to be careful. Customer names, the same as we did before. These are going to be the two columns where we're going to append to the bottom of these the customer names for no coupons. We want to come over here and say All Rows. Now when we click OK, look at that. Just like our last query, we get our counts and our table down here. We are only interested in the customer names. So we're going to amend this grouping step. Come up to the formula bar dropdown, customer names. It says each underscore square bracket, customer close square bracket, double click table, list, and enter. Look at that. That is absolutely amazing. There are our counts, and there is the actual list of all of the customer names. Now, if we notice here, this is not all the combinations we want because we still need null, null, null. Customer didn't go to any. That's where we're going to append below customer count and customer names. The 8 and the list of customers that went to no stores. Home, over to combined, append, append queries. From the dropdown, we want count and list of customers used no coupons. Click. Click OK. Oh, there's the error. We forgot to remove the store column. We wanted that list of customers and count to just be those two columns. No problem. Close and load to, and we'll do only create a connection. And there it is. Now I'm just going to come up and edit this. Double click to edit it. We'll add a step, right click, remove, close and load, which will load it as a connection. And now when we double click and open this up, that is so amazing. We can totally go backwards and amend a query. And of course, since this one is pointing at that query, now we do not get the store column. We just get 8 and list. If I click right there, there's the customers that went to none of the stores. Now, let's just notice something, that if we transpose this table, notice it would look just like our final report. If we had headers up here, Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, right? Boom, boom, boom. There are the stores for that particular coupon group. There's the count. And if we click right there, there would be the customers. Now, the way we're going to do that, or at least this step, we're going to add a column. And we're going to use the function record. That's this, a record, all these records to a list. So now we go up to add column, custom column. I'm going to call this, highlight, Record.ToList. Now I can come down here, Record.ToList. Power Query functions always are case sensitive, and you got to have the dot in the right place. Open parentheses, and since I want everything in each row, I use underscore. Close parentheses. Now when I click OK, it's not going to work, but let's just check out what we get here. If I pull this up, there's almost what we want, except for list is listed as text. Now, I want to get rid of that last row and then join using ampersand the actual customer column. So we're going to use the function List.RemoveLastN, and we'll just say remove the last one. Now I can come up to the formula bar and write around Record.ToList, List.RemoveLastN, open parentheses. And very carefully, after the close parenthesis for Record.ToList, the second argument in RemoveLastN, comma is 1. Just remove the last one. Close parentheses and enter. Now if I click here, that's starting to look good. Now we can come up and we want customer names joined so that it will show up as the whole column as part of our list. So right at the end, I'm going to use the ampersand, open square bracket, customer space names, close square bracket, and enter. Now if I look down here, you got to be kidding me. Look at that. that is starting to take shape as one of the columns in our final report. Now, actually, why don't we add an empty row here? So I come up and after the ampersand, in list syntax, I just want one null, close curly bracket, ampersand. And now when I enter, click right here, that is looking amazing. That's going to be one of the columns in our final report. That's going to be another one. The only thing we need to do now is add a header and then use the Table.From.Columns function to mash all the columns up into our table or our report. Now, I don't need any of the other columns, just this one. So right-click, remove other columns. Now, we need our headers. If we're going to use the Table.From.Columns, that function has two arguments. It's going to need Record.ToList with all of the columns, and then it's going to need another column with the headers. So we're actually going to create the headers. Over in Add Column, add an index from 1. Now, what's so cool about this and these columns here, if any of the source data changes, of course, the header for our final table will automatically update. Now, let's add a prefix here. Not using a column, just adding a prefix over to Transform, Format, Add Prefix. And I'm going to type something like coupon group with a space and enter. These will be the headers. Those are the columns. Now we're going to go up to View, and we're going to add one line of code using Table.From.Columns. So I go to Advanced Editor. Now let everything after is our code. Before the equal sign is the name of the step. After the equal sign is the actual code. If the name of the step doesn't have any spaces, then we don't need ampersand and double quotes. So now I come to the end, noticing that each step has a comma, comma, but not the last one. So on the last one, I'm going to comma, enter, tab, and I'm going to call this Table from Columns and Headers. Space, equal sign, space, and our function is Table.From.Columns. Remember, you got to spell it right and get all the case correct. Now, it needs two arguments, columns and headers. And we need from the previous step the name of that step. Control-C, right there, Control-V. The column that contains our columns, square bracket, Record.ToList column, close square bracket. Those would be the columns, comma. Second argument is our headers. Control-V, square bracket, and the name of the column with the headers is index, close square bracket. Now we can close parentheses on Table.From.Columns. No comma. No comma because it needs to know this last step is what it spits out as the result. And since that is not the last step right there, I double-click, Control-C, highlight, Control-V. Looks like a backspace. And now when I click Done, you've got to be kidding me. Look at those headers. Look at the combinations of each one of our coupons, our store names. There's the count. And there are all of the customer names for each coupon group. That is some brilliant M code from Bill Szysz. Let's see if we can dump it to our sheet. We've already loaded this, so I'm simply going to click Load, Connection Only, right-click, Load To. We want this now as a table on the existing sheet. It looks like I got 011, and that is where I want it. Click OK. That is amazing. There are our headers. There's all the combinations of our stores or coupons from our transaction table, the count, and all the names. Now, we want to test this here, and we'll run into a little trouble here. This table we actually did not use anywhere. It's actually the store column that determined the number of stores or coupons. Let's just see what happens if I change just these three to P. Delete. So I changed those three to P. That means we have 4 different stores. Let's come over and refresh. I'm going to right-click refresh, and I do not see that fourth store anywhere. No problem. We can go back and edit the code. Double-click and open this up. Now, we want to go over to View, Advanced Editor. Here's the M code. And it's the grouped rows step right there. Trader Joe's, Public, and Weigman's. Those are hard-coded values. Now, if we look up to the previous step, pivot columns, notice what it did. Remember, we talked about pivot columns giving a unique list across the columns? Well, it had to generate that exact list right there from that store copy column. That will do it. If I copy that little bit of code, Control-C, and then come down in grouped rows and highlight it and Control-V, now it will be dynamic. It will group by whatever the distinct list is. Now we want to come over, click Done, Home, Close and Load. And now, because we have our new store P, all the combinations here, and there's only 2 combinations where the P was involved, but boom, it works. And look at our headers. There's Coupon Group 10. And our counts are slightly different with 2 additional categories with 1, 1, and there are the names. We can even double-click and go look at our query. If we go up through the steps, we can see any previous step. So when I go down to Pivot Column, look at that. There's our P with a bunch of nulls except for those 2 customers. Grouped row step, look at that. There are 2 additional groups. And then the rest would reflect those changes also. I'm going to click Close and Load. Wow, that is some pretty powerful M code. Thanks to Bill Szysz and Power Query. It's awesome to be on our online Excel team. We'll see you next video.